Hey everyone, Laser Edition here. I can't believe I haven't done a video on this deck. This is blue red midrange. I believe this is card for card Endozoa's list as of like 10 days ago, so it may be out of date, but it's still super strong. It's what I did the majority of my climb into gold with, so yeah, if you're looking for just a solid deck, I highly suggest it. Going through the list, Turn of Seasons, it's the catch-all path, works for pretty much anything. Infuse lets you trade up into things, and as you'll see, we're gonna go for big burst turns towards the late game, so this can facilitate that. Thane, staple blue 2-drop. You're running pretty much every blue deck that has 2-drops, I think, in various amounts. Fossegrim, really good utility. Mostly you play it because it's a regenning 3/4, so you can do a whole bunch of trading. Occasionally, the fact that it has the give everyone a free move action becomes very, very relevant, and when it is relevant, it's crazy good. Bragi enables those giant burst turns with being able to give another minion frenzy. We have a lot of big minions in this deck, and being able to frenzy them can lead to games ending out of nowhere. Kara, one of the big cards that can end the game. It can grow very, very quickly, get out of control almost immediately. Thunderclap helps fight off aggressive opponents. Valkyrie Enforcer, good against reanimator decks and against other mid-range decks where we want to enforce tempo. Blackened Jotun, a big beefy thing with overrun. Giant Stairway makes anything into a big beefy thing. Magnus Thorsson, very good card, helps against aggro, helps clear out trades in mid-range decks. Cataclysm, reach and board clear, and one hyperborean, again just a big chunky thing with overrun. To extract life, a very good card to burn in the early game because it is very gem intensive, and in the late game it can do some really nutty things, clear really, really large monsters, minions, whatever you want to call them, and gets you some health back, so very powerful. Ignition, very good removal in the early game, it helps for reach in the end, it's just super versatile, you run it in most red decks, at least right now. Strigoi Pup, probably my vote for like the most interesting card in this deck. On the one hand, it's a 1-drop with life tap, so that's great against aggressive opponents. You can stay in the game longer. Really, really good. The interesting part is when you put this alongside Giant Stairway. It's a 6 mana and you have a 5/4 life tap. That's crazy good. So if you have a Giant Stairway down, you draw a pup, you're really, really happy about that. It's your biggest stabilization tool and your best racing tool. Crimson Pact, removal. Every deck in Mythgard needs removal. You just have to run it. And Crimson Pact is very good removal. Shopworn Bull. It helps with filtering your hand. You can throw away dead cards. If you have something burned but you can't play it yet, it's just stuck in your hand, so you can get it out, get something more relevant. And it's a really good blocker with that 5 health. Oak of Dodona, insane mid-range card, can help with racing if you're doing a lot of trades, has some incidental life gain, and then when it dies, you get to select a card to draw. It's crazy good. Wings of Abaddon, reach, close out the game, removal on a stick when you really need it to be, very versatile card, very powerful. Gigantomachia, good for your late game situations. Most of our early game has lower health, things like the pup and things like the einherjar thane and fossegrim after a trade. So early game, Gigantomachia is usually not going to hit you too hard, but you know, you got to play around it a little bit. You got to be careful. One magmataur could very well move up to 2 if you're missing Gigantomachia. Throw in another magmataur. That's completely valid. It's really, really good tempo tool. You get to clear a bunch of stuff out. Is effectively a board clear against a lot of aggressive enemies. And 7-ring ritual as a way to close the game out when you're in the late game and you need a big swing turn. So that's the deck. Really, really fun one. Really, really powerful and effective. Like I said, I got to gold with this with maybe like 20-ish games once I started playing it. It got me from silver 7 to gold 1 when just nothing else is working. So yeah, proven deck, very, very strong. We're gonna go give it a shot. Okay, game number 1, really fast queue against Broken? Is that I'm guessing that's how that's said. They're on Journey of Souls, so I'm assuming they're either Valkyries or aggro. Yep, looks like they're aggro, so we're gonna probably throw down Ignition on pretty much anything. That's not too bad, but we do kind of want to get rid of it. Magmataur is aces, and So is Magnus, so I don't really want to get rid of either of these anytime soon. I'll burn one ignition and get rid of this. I'm not convinced that that was right. There are other cards that might be a little more relevant, such as the 3-2 rush with teleport, but we'll see. Okay, so he's playing Orpheum. That's a little bit of a bummer, because that trades evenly with Thane. And this is the one where when it dies, everyone takes damage. We're pretty okay with this, honestly, though, because if we keep going 1 for 1 over time, we get closer to Thunderclap, Magnus, and Magmataur, and can start getting really big swing turns. Ironbelly Wyvern, the card that I was worried would be around somewhere. Ichor Feast, he has a really low tempo turn. We're super happy about that. And we're ahead on life. Who knew? Another Thane is wonderful, and another Ignition is also wonderful. I don't think we need Enforcer pretty much ever. Gonna offset by 1 because that way we can potentially force him into playing into a side, and then our board clears can just take care of it. More likely that he just plays into his Orpheum, and that's fine by us. A second Orpheum. It's a little spooky. A second Thunderclap makes it a lot less spooky. Use the Prestige one first, assert dominance. And this is one of those drawbacks of Orpheum of Horrors, right? He's taken a lot of damage off of it. And Thunderclap notably does do damage to the opponent as well, so just by using the Thunderclaps, we're going to get 4 damage of burn to our opponent. Okay, he will get that trade because we are in winter, so we're fragile, and also Orpheum gives it +1 anyway. But again, that's fine by us. We're getting trades, and he's not getting face damage. Okay, yep, that's one we don't want to stick around. We don't want that to stick around either. So we're going to Magnus kind of far right and try and force him to play away from his Orpheums. We can burn a bull. That's fine. Cool. He takes a bunch of damage. We're happy about that. We also have Ignition for a little bit of extra burn. Panic Raider gets him a card draw. That's, you know, it's not great. We're not thrilled about that, but it doesn't really hurt either. Depending on where he plays. Okay, so if he's playing there, then I think I like Thunderclap because it's a wide board. Thunderclap answers the wide board the best. Does he put anything on this Orpheum? If he does, then our Magnus will die in the trade. He doesn't. It didn't because we had Spring. Right. Anyway, Thunderclap happens. Bonk him. I don't think we need to ignite. Like, we could throw down the Ignition, but it doesn't really accomplish much. If that's going towards our creatures and not towards our face, we are doing very, very well. Oak we can kill with Magmataur. Oh, we have options now. I like the option the best that keeps our life total the highest. Now if he plays anything onto an Orpheum, then Crimson Pact dealing 1 damage is lethal alongside Ignition. We don't have enough red gems to do that next turn, but it very well could be a play over a course of 2 turns. Sure. No problem. For what it's worth, anyone watching, our opponent should have stopped burning gems like a long time ago. They do not have enough cards to actually use up all their gems, and getting this much mana probably hasn't been particularly relevant. I'd need to go back and watch the game again to, make double sure that that's correct, but I'm relatively certain there wasn't a need to get to 6 mana for our opponent. All right, we got a thane. Let's just throw down bragi, get ourselves a filter. Well, we can ditch the thane. And I kind of want to just ignite his face, but again, there's no reason to right now, right? As much as I may want to, as much as it may feel good to put my opponent at 1. Absolutely fine. You see how he cannot put anything on Orpheum of Horrors anymore? We can, now that we have Extract Life, we can burn the Crimson Pact. We're at no risk of dying, so we can just put down Hyperborean and say, okay, deal with this or you lose. Or more likely than not, deal with this and you lose. Okay. He's going for the honorable Sudoku. Oh, right, because this has armor. Yeah, sure. But yeah, that's going to be the game in our favor. I mean, we got a really, really, really good draw against their deck. We got, what was it, 4 turns in a row of AoE removal, which is kind of ridiculous. Got a let stray, got some rank points, and got some progress toward a mission. Got some progress towards 2 missions. Cool. All right. Good stuff. All right, going for game number 2, we're against Terra Brasca. It's a really cool name. I have no idea what that means, but it's awesome. Almost as awesome as my voice cracks. Is this worth an ignition? I think yes, and here's the reason. He's on Journey of Souls, right? If you can get rid of Crimson Pact. We do this now, then that means Strigoi Pup is going to be what they get back first. If they put down something more threatening than the Strigoi Pup, and we have to kill that first, and they would get that back from Journey of Souls first. So dealing with the smaller threat now means that we have to deal with a smaller threat later. Thane looks good to me. I don't think we'll need 2 fossegrims, will we? Seems unlikely. Now, question, thane or ignition? Thane is my play here because in order to trade into thane, they need to use their power infuse. That will let them trade evenly and get a soul. However, they will be using 2 of their mana just to deal with the board and not using it to develop anything more, which means tempo-wise, we basically force them to stay even instead of letting them stay ahead. Yeah, putting down a 1-drop is not that big a deal at all. The second thane is very interesting. Very interesting. Because then he'd have to use like 3 mana. He'd have to use Squire Pike as well as his infuse in order to deal with it. But we're not going to do that because we're not going to burn Strigoi, seeing as we have Giant Stairway, and that is one of the best ways for us to stabilize. We're actually going to burn Ignition, I think. We're going to put down the Shopworn Bull, which is going to be very hard for him to deal with. We don't need a second one, so we can get rid of that. We're looking to burn Thane this turn so that we can drop Fossegrim. The reason we didn't play Fossegrim is because if he has, say, an Ignition plus the Pike, then he would have a much easier time dealing with the Fossegrim than he would with the Shopworn Bolt. Yep, he's going to go ahead and just use his entire turn to draw, which is wonderful for us. Let's loot first. Hyperborean is a good burn, so we can toss back the Thane. Drop that. And then let's drop the fossegrim. And seeing as next turn we're on 5 with giant stairway, I'm actually going to drop the pup now. Do I want to move this? I don't think I do. Because if I drop the pup now and it lives, then giant stairway just means that's a blowout. And if they have to expend resources on it, then they expended resources on it, which is still great for us. That said, our opponent did draw a lot of cards last turn, which, you know, not a huge fan of that. Ooh. I don't know about that one, buddy, because I can just move this out of the way. Valkyrie Enforcer is really tempting, but I don't think that's necessary. Bam. We will loot. Gigantomachia is kind of terrible for us right now. We're likely not going to be burning any more cards anytime soon. Now we're kind of looking to just pressure out, close out the game. Let's see what Tarabraska has. 2 red-purple aggro opponents in a row. It's kind of interesting. It's a good deck. Makes a lot of sense to play. If you're looking for a deck to run, red-purple aggro is very, very solid. Alright, he has a pup. Let's see. Well, we'll start by looting. That's really good. Right? It is. But we don't need it now. Right now we can magmataur, double clear. Yep, they get their divination and draw from the oak. We're really getting back next turn. During trapezist, that's fine. So this attacks. Oh, well, that's going to be the game. All right, cool. So we played reactive in the early game, and then we played a little more proactive after turn 4, turn 5. Got to drop some bigger threats. Ooh, we got a rare for our daily card. Nice. Yeah, so that's Red Blue Midrange. Unfortunately, it didn't get to show off how it can go later into the game. It can do some really nutty things on turns like 6, 7, 8. But I think you see the idea where you drop a lot of fat stuff on top of a giant stairway, and then you can do a lot of damage and clear things off really easily and put a lot of pressure on. So that'll do it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot more than you would imagine. There will be more videos coming to you later this week, and until then, I'll see you next time.